How do peeps, and welcome to another episode of Talking Paranormal with the Old Man. And as usual, I am the Old Man. How y'all doing today? We're getting like a false spring today in Michigan, or actually this week. It's like 50 today, 55 tomorrow. I think almost 60 on Wednesday, but then storms on Wednesday. But that's fine. At least it's not snowing. Uncovered the cars. Drove her today. She drove pretty well. Today's episode is going to be about our recent trip to Tombstone, Arizona. And Tombstone was interesting. As you know, during the shootout at the OK Corral, you have the Birdcage Theater, you have Boot Hill Graveyard, which is supposedly a real graveyard where a lot of a lot of victims of the early days of the Wild West were buried, I guess. From what I understand, it's from it's 1882. Let me look at this real fast. I want to make sure I got you guys some information here. Boot Hill Graveyard. Okay, so Boot Hill Graveyard was used after 1883 to bury outlaws and a few others. Now I know that the Clanton, I think it was Frank Clanton, I do believe, was there. No, I'm sorry, Billy Clanton, Tom McLaury, and Frank Mallory. They were the three killed at the OK Corral shootout in October 26th of 1881. And there's other ones there. There's other ones that had like really interesting tombstones. There was some that when we talked to the clerk or the person, it cost like $6 to get in. So we were talking to her, and she said, obviously they're not the original because they're all wood. A few of them are not, but most of them are wood. And of course, wood decayed and all this kind of stuff. So basically, the tombstones are not original, but they're like replicas. Really cool. I mean, it's really cool place. So this podcast is going to be about that, about our trip. We did have a few things happen that we can explain. So I'm going to explain to you about that too. Basically, it makes for a long day. We flew into Phoenix and got a vehicle, and then we drove 3 hours to Tombstone, almost all highway. But of course, then you get off on the 2 lane roads and you get traffic. But other than that, it was a nice trip. It was about 75 degrees on Wednesday when we got there, 73 on Thursday, raining on and off on well, no, actually Friday was supposed to no Friday was fine. It was like 59 degrees on Friday. It rained in the morning, but then when we left in the afternoon, it had dried up. Over by Tucson, you could see there was about ready to be what's called here in the Midwest a gully washer. It was pouring. You could see it was pouring down rain. So we stayed at the inn in Tombstone, and it was like heck about a block off the main drag. And it's not really a main drag. It's called the Historic District. And I was curious if the historic district was actually historic, if it was the original buildings. It was not. According to AI here, the Tombstone Historic District was recognized as a National Historic Landmark District in 61 and 62, containing many authentic preserved or rebuilt structures from the 1870s and 1880s boomtown era. However, most buildings are not original due to major fires in the late 19th century. Even though there are two sites that I know that had survived, is the courthouse and the Birdcage Theater. From my understanding, are the only two buildings original to Tombstone. So key details is major fires in 1881, 1882, and 1886 destroyed much of the original business district. Original locations, while many structures are replicas or reconstructions, they are often on the original historic locations, maintaining the town's 1880s character. Key sites, the OK Corral area and the Tombstone Courthouse are preserved, but many buildings on Allen Street were rebuilt. Allen Street is the main historic district in Tombstone. And funny thing is when we pulled into town, we pulled in last Wednesday. The odd thing about this is there was no like chain restaurants. There was no anything chains like Walmart, no McDonald's, no Burger King. The only two things that I could see was a Circle K, which if you're not familiar with Circle K, they have them out west. It's a convenience store, gas station, and there's a Family Dollar, and that was it as far as like stores, off of Allen Street. That was it. That was it. So, uh, out of curiosity, because I'm always curious about what why. So when we checked out of a hotel, checked out last Friday, I asked the woman there. I'm like, I got a question for you. I'm like, I don't care. It doesn't affect me, whatever. But I go just out of curiosity. Why isn't there any chain, right? Chain stores like there's no Walmart, there's no McDonald's, there's no Burger King, there isn't anything. And I asked her, I'm like, why isn't there? And she goes, they're not historic. And I'm like, really? Okay. So in order for them to be there, they have to be historic. Well, what's historic? you know, what's historic? So yeah, so she goes and you can make the argument, well, the Circle K is not historic and the Family Dollar is not either. And but I guess you need gas, I guess, and you need something, and the Family Dollar wasn't like, they didn't have groceries as far as, meats or, things like that. So and she goes, I found this to be kind of funny, but she says that the townspeople had to fight to get the Family Dollar in. She goes, the city council or, whomever makes those decisions, the townspeople had to fight to get the Family Dollar in their town. So I asked her, I'm like, okay, just out of curiosity, and I go again, it doesn't affect me. I don't live for it's more of a curiosity factor. I'm like, why? I go, where do you go for groceries? Because there isn't anything here. And she goes, we have two options. We have to go to Sierra Vista, or we have to go to Benson. Now, I'm just looking it up right here, just for my own satisfaction, curiosity factor here. So from Tombstone to Benson is, well, it's only 27 minutes. Not too bad. Okay. But, what if you have ice cream? The shit is going to melt before you get home. And then the other one is Sarah Vista. And Sarah Vista is, again, not too bad, I guess. It's only a half an hour. I guess I was thinking more like maybe an hour, but either way, you're looking at an hour trip. Like we're spoiled here because well, most people are that live in a city. You're pretty much spoiled, okay? And to have to drive a half an hour to get groceries and then a half hour back. I don't know. I mean, you would think because okay, if you had, and this is just speculation, but if you have a Circle K and a Family Dollar just outside of town, why couldn't you have something maybe halfway between Tombstone and Benson, or halfway between Tombstone and Sierra Vista? But again, don't care, not my decision. So anyway, so yeah, so there is no anything that's not historical is not allowed to build in Tombstone, which was cool because it made it more authentic, I guess. So again, the town is famous, I guess, for the OK Corral shootout, the gunfight at the OK Corral, and I guess that is the main attraction. Um, as of 2020, the population was only 1,300, and the area is total by land is 9.25 square miles. So it was founded in 1879 and incorporated in 1881. So enough of that, boring historical stuff. So that being said, here is our trip. Like I said, we flew into Phoenix, and I'm sorry, yeah, flew into Phoenix, got our car rental. Oh, one thing that's not paranormal, whatever, but in Phoenix, if you're a product like myself, if you grew up in the 70s and the 80s, there was a TV show called Alice, and I always look to see things to do when we're in Phoenix because to see in case we got extra time. Well, Phoenix, Mel's Diner, Mel's Diner from Alice, Mel's Diner. The opening scene with the coffee mug, welcome to Mel's coffee cup. That was there. The actual restaurant is still there, and I was geeking out. I was like a freaking 10-year-old man. I bought a T-shirt. I was taking pictures of every freaking thing I could. I even got um two take home menus that have Alice on it and everything, and Flo and Mel and Vera, and there was a thing on the wall that said kiss my grits, kind of thing. That was Flo's catchphrase. Yeah, so I was like geeking out, man. I was like a freaking 12-year-old. It was cool as hell, and so we ate there, and I'll put pictures, non paranormal, but I'll put pictures on our Facebook page for the podcast, and yeah, it was cool. So we were there until about we got into Phoenix at like 9:30 in the morning. Got our car rental. Got out of there about 10 or so. Made it over to Mel's, and we didn't leave Mel's until about 11 or so in the morning. And then we drove from there straight through to Tombstone, and wanted to do the Boot Hill Graveyard first. So we did. Like I said, it cost $6 to visit. Not a big deal per person. So we did that and everything. And I had my full spectrum camera. And for the uninitiated, a full spectrum camera is ones that you don't have. It takes okay. Most regular cameras, even on your phone, they have special filters that filters out the IR light and the UV light, which is the ultraviolet spectrum that we cannot see. So they intentionally put filters in or on the cameras to prevent those IR and UV lights from coming in and being a picture of. Well, the full spectrum, that filter has been removed, so it records in the IR and the UV, which is the ultraviolet, two spectrums of light that we cannot see. So in theory, you should be able to get stuff that you can't see with your eyes or with a regular camera, but you can get it with the full spectrum camera. So Tuesday night before we left, I charged all that stuff up, and it's a Phantasm camera that I use, and that also has a extra light on the bottom that is attaches to it, and you can use that too if need be. Well, and if you've ever seen pictures of paranormal investigations taken outside, the pictures have like a purple tint or a hue to it. That's because that is the UV and IR light that's being allowed in. So again, you can't see things that you could, you can see things that you would not normally be able to see. So with that being said, so we were there. We got there a little bit about 3, and we were there about 3:50. So almost an hour we were there. taking pictures, and they give you a brochure um, that tells you like there's 11 rows, I believe, and the first row is all the way back towards away from the building, and then the rows two, three, four, five, up to 11 as you get closer to the actual building. So we were there, like I said, and took pictures and all this stuff and all this stuff and all this stuff, and didn't really check. Honestly, we didn't check until after we got back to the hotel. Well, they have a gift shop. So I was talking to a dude, the person in there, and he was a skeptic, which is fine. I told him when we got there, and we told him when we had to get. But you probably have heard this many times, but we're paranormal investigators. I'm sure everyone is. And you went over. We've been doing this for a long time. This year is our 30th anniversary. Blah 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 blah. And he goes, "Well, I'm kind of a skeptic. I don't really believe." I'm like, well, that's your choice. So he brings on a map of Tombstone, and he goes, "Where are you guys staying?" And we're at the in historic Tombstone. And he goes, "Okay, cool." And then he's like, "Here, here, 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 here." And Brenda asked, "So how late is everything open till here? In town?" And he goes, "Well, we're a party in town, whatever, but everything closes at 5." And we're like, "Seriously, really?" He goes, "Yeah, everything closes at 5." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And he was right. He was right. The Boot Hill Graveyard closes at 5, and we get into town, and like I said, and because we are just coming into town, so we went to our hotel. Actually, I'm sorry, we went to our hotel first, checked in, then went over to Boot Hill. Okay, then we went back to our hotel, dropped off some things, our luggage and things like that. Then we went back out into town, and sure as shit, it's like it was almost 5 o'clock, and everything was closing, man, except for the saloons. There was three saloons. Yeah, there was. Well, the three main ones are the Crystal Saloon, the a Longhorn, and the Big Nose Kate. And the reason why it's called Big Nose Kate, not because she had a big nose, but because she was in everyone's business. So she was like nosy. So they called her Big Nose Kate because she was in everyone's business. So we went back. We went to eat, and we at least myself, I pigged out at Mel's. I'm like, oh my god, I ate so much at Mel's, and got back to the hotel, and like, I'm not really that hungry, man. For a meal. So we went to the Longhorn, and we had a like an apple cobbler with ice cream. Me and Brenda shared it because we weren't really hungry. Then we went back to our hotel, and I'm going through our pictures, laptop. Yeah, I could have done it there when I was there, in real time. But oh, dude, it's so freaking hard because you have a really small screen. So I always bring a laptop and I always transfer everything to a laptop. So I'm going through the pictures, and like I said, taken with a full spectrum camera, and everything. Like I said, has I'm looking at one of the pictures right now. It has like a purple hue to it. I I I guess you call it like a tint, purple tint hue to it. And I'm going through the pictures, and I'm like, oh, I'm like, I think we got something, Brenda. And yeah, there's like, I think we got something here. And I'm sitting here, looking at it, and I'm like, yeah, I think I got something here. And Brenda's, always the skeptic, which is good. It's always a good idea to have a skeptic. And I showed her, and she goes, "Ooh, what's that?" I'm like, "That's what I said. I think we got something." And we're looking at it like, okay, yeah, it's okay. Is there anything that it could possibly be? Whatever. I'm like, no. I mean, there's a couple of tombstones there, but I don't see where it can be anything else but paranormal. So I'm like, yeah, I think it is. Then we have this other picture that I could have swore was something paranormal too. And I'm like, okay, I think we got something else. It looked like a dude was staring at us. And if you blew it if you blew it up, if 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 you blow it up, it looks like a old dude with a goatee looking at you. Now, it's rare to get, we were only there for, like I said, not even an hour. It's rare to get something in an hour, but it's rare to get two things paranormal in an hour. So we decided, okay, we have to go back the 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 following day. We have to go back and I we have to like see if there was anything that could be in the way, anything that could be causing it. So we were going to a roadside attraction on Thursday called The Thing. And it was just basically a roadside attraction about what if aliens came to Earth, and took over, you know, there was warring factions. What if the aliens had a hand in the home, or I'm sorry, of Earth's, evolution over time, whatever. It made you think, but it was more of a, okay, yeah, whatever. Okay, so I mean, it was cool. So if you know us, we're like the Griswolds. We go point A to point B, point C, point D, point E, point F. So a short hour. So we drove 45 minutes from Tombstone to the Thang roadside attraction. An hour short distance away was Johnny Ringo's grave. And I know you're all saying, who the hell is Johnny Ringo? Well, I'll tell you who Johnny Ringo was as soon as I bring it up. I don't want to be wrong here. Okay, so Johnny Ringo, um, he was born in May 3rd, 1850, and he died on July 13th, 1882. He was an American Old West outlaw, loosely associated with the Cochise County Cowboys in frontier boomtown Tombstone. Now, back in the day, from my understanding, a cowboy is not what a cowboy means today. A cowboy back then meant a rustler, a crook, criminal, murder, whatever, whatever. So that all basically do it. So basically, he was a outlaw, okay? And supposedly they found him. It was an hour and a half away. It's on Turkey Creek Road, I believe it was. Um, let me see if I can find. Let me see if I can find the plaque. I don't know if I took a picture of it with my camera. Yeah, I did too. Okay, here it is. Okay, here is the historic site of Cochise. I'm probably saying that wrong. County, Arizona. So John Ringo, also Johnny Ringo. The remains of this noted outlaw, or I'm sorry, gunman, and outlaw lie here. A teamster traveling from West Turkey Creek found the body sitting in the fork of a nearby oak tree with a bullet hole in his right temple. A coroner's jury reported the death to be suicide, and Ringo was buried on the spot. There were others who viewed the body and maintained that the July 13th, 1882 death of Ringo was murder and not suicide. So we went there. Like I said, it's on private property. And we had, I mean, we talked about this, me and the wife did. It's a historic site, okay? And this guy that owns it, it's a private property, and he has like two chain link fences going like a path to the actual grave, and uh, it makes it sound like he's doing it on out of the kindness of his heart, but I don't know. I Because if it's a historic site, my assumption would be that you would have to allow it to be accessible. And just because it's on private land, I would assume it has to be accessible. Could be wrong, but that's where I'm thinking. Okay. So we went there, did and you'll see the pictures that I post. Um, they're covered with rocks. They're like a mound, like like a grave. You know how like a freshly buried grave has raised dirt on it. Well, this has rocks, like a crap load of rocks. So I actually asked. I go. I think I know the reason behind this, but why do they have rocks on even at Boot Hill Graveyard? And that's where I asked. I guess they did it for two reasons. One, the ground was back then. The ground was too hard because now we have excavators that make, can make a hole. So I guess because the ground was too hard to dig a proper hole, that's the first reason, and to keep critters away from I guess digging up the corpse and and taking the corpse away. So every picture or every tombstone has the rocks on it. And then also too, I want to mention is Boot Hill Graveyard. I'll post this too on our Facebook page. There was a and the reason why I wanted one of the reasons why I wanted to go is it was I mean obviously it's a cemetery. If there's a cemetery, I'm going. Okay. Um, so I wanted to go regardless. Well, years ago, there was this famous picture of the ghost cowboy at Boot Hill Graveyard. So there was a YouTube video on this, and I guess the dude that took the picture, he was descendant of, and I want to make sure that I say this right. I don't want to screw this up. He was a descendant of the Clantons, who was Billy was killed at the OK Corral. So he was a descendant of the Clantons. So his friend from California wanted to take a picture. I guess he was visiting, I guess, and he wanted to take a picture dressed up as a cowboy in Boot Hill Graveyard. So he did, and the guy took the picture who was a descendant of the Clantons, I'm sorry. And when they got the pictures back or looked at the picture, whatever, there was a ghost in the and behind when you're at the end of the cemetery, which is row one, the only thing that is there is brush, and that's it. But the guy that took the picture, he wanted the mountains in the background, so he wanted that you know to be a scenic picture. Well, in the brush behind row one, between there and the mountains, there's like it looks like a ghost of a cowboy, and he said supposedly, and the guy that is a descendant of the Clantons, supposedly he said that the cowboy, the ghost or whatever, was looking at the Clanton tombstone. Yeah, I don't know, but I will post a picture of that too on here. Um, so again, we went back. I don't know if I mentioned this. We went back. That was my video that I took. I apologize. Um, and so we went back to recreate it the following day after we came back from Johnny Ringo's grave, and there isn't anything. There is not anything that could be anything else but paranormal, except for the one picture. Okay, the one picture that is paranormal is you'll see a tombstone that says Will DeLong. That one we figured out there was nothing over there but two tombstones, but that was it. And then the other one that was Cowboy Bill King to the right, and I'll post this too. We thought was a dude looking at us. I mean that at first glance, that's what it looks like. Well, upon further to quote, the NFL officiators, or officials, after further review, it was determined to be a cactus. The sun was shining just right on this cactus to make it look like a face. So that's why it's important to look at a picture, and it's called pareidolia, which means you're seeing faces that aren't there. And like I said, at a distance, it looked like a face of a person standing behind this cactus. But upon further review, when we went back the following day, I recreated the picture the best I could as far as the angle and everything. It was a cloudy day, so the sun wasn't shining on this cactus, and that's what it was. It was the a piece of the cactus was being lit up by the sun, and that's what was causing it to have that appearance of a face. So we do have one, and like I said, I will post them and shortly here, so you can see it too, make your own opinion. But I do believe that it was something paranormal. So there was two tombstones that I want to. These are some of the humorous ones, and whether or not these are real, these are authentic, what they said, I don't know. But okay, here lies Lester Moore, 4 slugs from a 44. No less, no more. See how they do a play on words? No less, Lester Moore, no more. Okay, then the other one I think is really funny too. Is it says here lies George Johnson, hanged by mistake, 1882. He was right, we was wrong, but we strung him up, and now he's gone. I mean, it's not funny that he died, but it's just funny how they said that, you know. Um, so then our last day was on Friday, and we went to the bird cage theater. Now the bird cage, God, why do I want to say bird? The bird cage theater is one of the only buildings left that was original. It was 1881, and I don't have a quote quote bucket list, but I do have things that I don't believe in that. Oh, I have a bucket list. Nah, I have a list of where I want to go, and the Bird Cage Theater was one of them. I have known about it for a long, 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 long time, and I've always wanted to be there. Well, they offer ghost tours. I'm not into having a ghost tour where you have people. I don't say this in a bad way, but they're like amateur paranormal investigators, or they're just the interest. So they'll be talking, they'll be whispering, not a sterile environment. So we decided to lead to when we left on Friday to go there first thing. We were there about 10:30 to go to the birdcage, and they have self guided tours. So that's what we did, and we had a place to ourselves. I mean, it was like doing an investigation by ourselves. There was an older couple like in front of us. They were already behind the stage when we first got into the main part of the theater. We didn't see them again. We did not see them again. So we had the place to ourselves. So I had the full spectrum camera, and we were field testing our new thermal imaging camera. I did not. We did not get anything concrete evidence, but when we were so we did get two, or I did get two thermal imaging hits on the actual. Okay, to go back a little bit, when you first walked in, you were in, I'm assuming, the bar area where they served alcohol. Okay, you go through a door and you're in the other part of the building that has it's a really compared to nowadays a really small stage, like a really small freaking stage, and there's they're called bird cages on both sides, elevated, and I'll post the pictures, elevated, and those is where the prostitutes would please their customers while there was a play going on down below. Bizarre, dude. It is freaking bizarre. So we had so I took pictures of all that. I got two thermal hits up on the actual bird cage part of it, cages. I don't know if they were just the lights that we were getting. I'm not for sure. So then we go behind the stage, and looked around there. Then you go down the steps, and there was a poker game that was a 9-year poker game, and it cost what was it, 100? No, wait, wait. Ah, crap. I think it was like $30 to ante up, which is worth $1,000 today. But it was like a 9-year continuous poker game. And it's like, okay. So when we were down there, I heard two, not bangs, but a thump, like that, like that. Heard two of them, and I don't know if that was if we picked up somebody outside or if we picked up something paranormal. I do not know. So after that, we were almost finished. Anyways, it emptied into a gift shop, and if Steve Gonzalez from Ghost Hunters back in the day, he was. I talked about this about the Lizzie Borden house. He said, "Oh, if it has a gift shop, it has to be haunted," and they like fist bumped each other, whatever. So I spent some money at the gift shop. I will be the first to admit I spent some money, and we basically flew home. Well, we drove to Phoenix and spent the night in Phoenix, and then we came home on Saturday. Then yesterday was just travel anymore. The older I get, travel just like takes it out of me. So wasn't too much in the mood of doing anything yesterday. So I just was a bum basically yesterday around the house. So yeah, I thought today I would do this, and hopefully, if it worked out last week, I finally figured out how to edit. It took me dude. It took me like 4 hours to do my half an hour podcast, and it took me the rest of the freaking time to figure out how to freaking edit the damn Audacity program that I use. So I had the beginning, the podcast, and the end all together. So I wrote it down. I thought I had the page bookmarked. Evidently, I did not. So yeah. So it's like I wrote it down, and the little post-it note is right here, right here, right here. The post-it note got it written down. Now, if I could just read my handwriting, that's a whole different story. So, yep. So that was our trip to a Tombstone. It was fun. We have some evidence, and I guess what I'll say is I'm not going to show you I'm not going to tell you what the evidence is, because this way you have to go to our homepage or our Facebook page for the group. I'm sorry, for the podcast, Talking Paranormal with the Old Man. And I have it circled, and I will circle the other one too, so you know what I'm referring to. And then I will post the picture and then the close up for each one of them. Then I will post the pictures from the inside of the from the bird cage. I'm trying to see. Yeah, I do have them. Okay. Yes, I do have them. Okay. So yes. So anyways, thank you for listening again. If you enjoy my podcast, please tell your friends and family and acquaintances. And if you do not like my podcast, forward my podcast information to people that you do not like. That way, you can torture them by having them listen to me. I would appreciate it. So, anyways, again, guys, you have to be more afraid of the living than you do of the dead. Take care of yourselves, and I'll be back again probably on Sunday this upcoming week. Don't have anything going on. So, until then, bye-bye.
I'm sorry, but the person you called has a voicemail box that has not been set up yet. Goodbye.